coming up on the Lead Ministry Podcast.
So you're telling me I can't volunteer? We'd say, no, it's not that you can't, but we know the pace. And so we want you to have a season off.
Now your host, Josh Denhart.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lead Ministry Podcast. We are talking about summer. That's right, summer is upon us, and you got to think about summer in ministry with a different set of rules. And the different set of rules on the last podcast, we talked about how to make sure you're super diligent so that your downtime in the summer is leveraged, so that your fall and your spring are just a little bit easier. Well, now we're going to talk about some super, really unique things about summer in terms of recruiting and how you do summer just a little bit different. So summer, Bill, we want to make sure that we're thriving, not just surviving summer, but you got to have different rules, don't you?
Yeah, you play by different rules in summer because it's a different season.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is a different season. So on the podcast, we often talk about we're going to define it, we're going to develop it, and we're going to do it. And so just as a quick review, why is summer unique in ministry? Well, attendance is down, but visitors are actually high. So you have to make sure that you put your best foot forward, but you got to do it with a bare bones crew. Your volunteers are going to take a vacation. That means counting on key volunteers is actually tricky. It is an impossibility to say to somebody, hey, this person did 40 weeks, a school year commitment. We're looking for you to do 12 weeks. It's like, bro, I'm not going to be in town 12 consecutive weeks.
Right.
And so you can't recruit that way. In addition, you need a vacation. You got to block off some personal time. And guess what? Sunday is still coming every single 7 days. So that's what's kind of crazy about summer. But we're talking about how you can leverage summer for your best. And so we're just going to talk about a couple of brief strategies. One of the strategies that we did is, and this landed squarely in my court, Bill. In terms of a team task, this was Josh task for sure. And so in the month, late April, basically after Easter, give it a few weeks, and then probably most of the time during the month of May, we had a nice table set out, and it was right where people were dropping off their kids. And it was these 11 by 17 sheets of paper with every date of the summer and how many slots, how many lines for Sunday, June 17th. We need 3 volunteers in this area. We need 6 volunteers in this area. And those were blank lines. They had the dates that were associated with them. And we had the entire summer, when summer started and when fall kickoff happened, that little block was 12 weeks and we needed to fill those. And so parents would come to drop off their kids and I would say, hey, aren't we grateful that somebody agreed to volunteer with your kids for 40 weeks? And I would really accentuate the 40 long weeks. And what we're asking is to give that person who did 40 weeks a reprieve and a rest. Would you be able to pick up a couple of dates in the summer? We're just asking for 2, maybe 3. And then the majority of people would be like, absolutely. And they would look at the calendar right there. They would pull out their phone and they would tap their husband or their wife and they would fill in this week. We know we're going to be here in this week. And so then that was their contribution to help fill in the summer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I like it because I think there's a lot of benefit to that where you now have parents who maybe haven't been connected.
That's right.
Now jumping in and seeing what's happening in kids ministry in their own church.
That's exactly right. And I got to say that you've brought up an interesting point. That was one of our driving values. The first driving value was to give our people who did 40 weeks a year time off.
Right.
And quick parenthetical, some of them were just really jazzed. They're like, hey, I'm having the time of my life. I'm good to go. I'm going to go ahead and do all 12 weeks in the summer. And we'd say, hey, we love you, but no. And they're like, wait a minute. So you're telling me I can't volunteer? We'd say, no, it's not that you can't, but we know the pace. And so we want you to have a season off. And so I remember one really dynamic couple, they said, when you first told us that, we were like, what is he thinking? And then we got to experience a reprieve and we're like, wow, we are ready for the fall. And so that 12 weeks off was really critical. So we wanted to give them a rest. But you brought up an interesting point. We wanted not yet committed parents or who weren't serving in any way to have a flavor and a feel for what serving in kids ministry might look like. Now, here's the interesting piece. It then behooves us as a staff not to suck, because then they're going to step into possible chaos and nothing is prepared and they're running around like the chicken with their head cut off, and they're like, well, like, let me run off this ship like a sinking, like, you know, like rats off a sinking ship. I am never serving in this area. When they asked me to serve 40 weeks a year, I don't want 40 weeks of this chaos. So we had to make sure that we weren't chaos. Am I right?
Oh yeah, that's really good. Yeah, because you could kind of be, like you said in the last episode, you could kind of feel like you want to coast in the summer, but for the sake of your volunteers who this might be their first taste of your ministry, and for the sake of your families who are visiting and the families you already have, you can't coast. If you coast, you're going backwards.
That's
right.
You
got to make it the right experience.
Exactly. And so we did have, by the way, hear me out. We did not have Wednesday night programming. We only had Sunday morning programming. But I have to tell you, we actually reduced what our Sunday programming looked like. It had a few less bells. It had a few less whistles. And you're like, wow, aren't you coasting? No, it's called pace. We're still going to do Sundays. We are going to do a modified and not as intense version because we have people who are going to be one-off volunteers. We don't have the standard 40-week-a-year volunteer. And so we did do it a little bit simpler, a little bit easier. And then, by the way, that made it easier for us as a staff to shine.
Right.
Because what we wanted is for those one-off volunteers who were like, yeah, we can do June 17th and we can do, well, we're going to be here the weekend of July 4th. We'll do July 5th. We're good. Okay, great. You're going to do this twice. And we want them to have a pristine, beautiful, glorious experience. And so this modified version was easy for us as a staff to crush, but it was easy for a person who's never had any experience to walk in with a tub filled with all that they would need. There really is no prep. And they're like, oh, dude, this was awesome. Great. Yeah. Your awesome experience means that the likelihood of you serving with us in the future has now skyrocketed. That's a good thing.
Right. So your summer programming, even within Sunday morning, can be simple and it can be easy, but still make it awesome.
That's right. Effective and efficient. Those are two big keys, effective and efficient. And so I would, and by the way, I got to be honest with you, was I guilting people with the 40 long weeks? Yes, absolutely. Sorry. And by the way, if you've been to any podcast or maybe like a national breakout or maybe you're part of the lead ministry courses and stuff, you know that I say all of the time, don't guilt people. Yep. Sorry.
Well, sometimes people have to, like, sometimes you're not in charge of people's feelings about things.
That's
Maybe
true.
Those people are feeling guilty because they actually have been feeling the Holy Spirit draw them to help lead in ministry, and they haven't been confronted with it yet. Yeah. And so this is their moment, you know?
That's a really nice way to put what I knew was happening in my mind. Because Bill,
like, I'm gonna ask if you feel guilty. That's on you.
Yeah, for sure. But I have to say, like, I distinctly remember standing in that hallway and having a parent come down that hallway and then turn on a dime when they saw me and leave.
You call them right away. Hey, I saw you, but I didn't get a chance to connect.
Yeah. I think we connected eyes. Does that mean you want to volunteer?
Track him down in the parking lot.
Yeah. Oh, wait. You're just running. It's like a meme right there.
Yeah.
So
they get to their car and you're already there.
Yeah.
With a clipboard.
Hey, I saw we connected eyes today. So, but now, in all seriousness, summer has to get staffed. And guess what? I love you. I love your kids. The dishes need done. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
you're a part of the campsite, and you're either going to go grab wood or you're going to do some dishes after dinner because we have some chores here we have to do.
Right.
So I wasn't a jerk about it, but I definitely was assertive. There's no question. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is that Sunday is still coming and we need people. And I say it's going to be very easy for you, but we just need people. Okay, so that was some of the reasons. Number one, we wanted to give the 40 week a year people time off. We wanted, number two, Sunday is still coming. We want to make it easy and give people who've never tried it a chance to try it. However, here was a hidden, what I'm going to call unanticipated positive consequence of this little 12-week summer thing. And in that 12 weeks, somebody might serve once, maybe two, maybe three times. Mm-hmm. I told all of our key staff or volunteers or whatever, the main people who were there all the time, I said, put on your special leadership lenses and put on your goggles. And of the 25 people who have agreed to do this one or two times this summer, you notice the ones who actually crush it, who are gifted with kids, who have a propensity for chaos, who have an acumen for like dealing with a small group and making it kind of fun. And they're just a natural at this. Be on the lookout. And by the way, I'm not saying like be on the lookout for the loser, but take note of the loser.
Right.
And understand that they're not a loser, okay? Like scratch that from the record. What it is that not everybody is gifted at doing this. And that's fine. We needed you. We needed you to help us fill a hole. And we know now that you breaking out in a cold sweat and looking like you've seen a ghost, not going to be a good fit. We're not going to look for you for 40 weeks a year.
Yep.
However, the person next to you, they are a natural rock star, and we are going to put them a little bit higher on the list. The cream rises to the top, and we're going to go, man, that person's really gifted. We should look at them for a larger role. So it is almost like a testing ground. Summer became a testing ground for us.
Yeah, and I love that idea of using summer and those positions. And I love the idea, really, especially of you saying, put on your glasses, put on your recruiting glasses, put on your glasses to see who's a natural fit, who has potential to really be, a key part of this ministry. I love that. That's great leadership to do that.
Yeah. So it was definitely a taste and see. This isn't as bad as you might think. And now we're going to see and observe who's good, and it really did pan out that way. We also provided treats sometimes, just to make it. We were looking for any endorphin, any dopamine rush we could get. Because we wanted people to have a positive experience, right? And
when I serve with Josh's ministry, I get a piece of chocolate.
Exactly, dude. Do you think I'm not above that at all?
Right.
I know enough about human psychology that I want to have as many positives as possible. But, we've talked about this before. But another key thing is to make your area ultra clean.
Yes.
Like when guests, by the way, when I say guests, I'm saying like volunteer guests. Like somebody who's not a normal person serving with you. You want them to walk in and go, oh my word, I don't feel chaos. I don't feel crazy. This is clean. Yes, by design. Right. We're doing this for you so that you can look forward and go, Not a bad experience when I'm calling you next year in April to see if you would be a 40-week person. You have a couple of positive experiences with us.
And by the way, when people have those experiences, it helps them also tell others about all of that. So they go and they have let's say they sign up for 1 week at your church, and they come in and all the activities are outlined for them to do easily. All the bins are marked. The classroom's clean. They know exactly what they're doing next. They're able to serve the kids. Mm-hmm. They have an overall great experience. They got their piece of chocolate, all of that things. When they talk to other parents, which they do, parents talk to each other, guaranteed. They're going to say, hey, you should sign up for one of the time slots. It's super easy and it's fun. And I felt like I was really part of the ministry for this moment. And then they also can share that with people, with their neighbors. Hey, you should come to our church. Our kids ministry is really great. It's clean. The activities are clear. It's fun to be around. We get a piece of chocolate, all the things.
Right. It's so true. And by the way, we need to bank on the idea that people talk. Mm-hmm. Like I remember one time a ministry leader was so offended that people had relationships and talked about their children's ministry experience. And I'm like, well, the reason that you're offended is because your area, like you're bad. You're not doing a good job. Right. You are the literal definition of hot mess express. And people walk in, you're sweating profusely. You're running around. Your head is you're a freak. I'm sorry. Yeah. Nope. Yeah. Guess what? Children's ministry leader, youth ministry leader. No one wants to be around you when you are walking chaos. And so when they have other friends in the church and their little small group or their cohort of people who are looking out for their life, okay? I have friends who are like, Josh, I know your schedule. I know your family. I know that you and your wife just had a disagreement and I counseled you on how to fix that disagreement. They're all up in my life. And then I say, hey, I am contemplating serving in the youth ministry next year. What do you think? And if they've had multiple bad experiences, they're going to go, I know you. I know the insanity of your life. Stay away. Don't do that. It's going to be terrible for you. Now, that's not gossip. That is another member of the body helping this member of the body not reach burnout and chaos and family fights. Well, guess what? You, ministry leader, because your youth ministry was chaotic and not organized, and you didn't communicate anything to anybody, and people came in and you didn't have anything prepared at all, they're like, I hated this experience. That was seared into their memory. And they are going to counsel others. Be cautious. Your life is crazy. I don't want your life to be crazy so that your marriage is harder. Really think about whether you want to do that. That's the negative version, as opposed to what you're saying, the positive version. They had a totally awesome experience. They were communicated with 2 days before. Here's what this is going to look like. They came in. It was as it was reported. Okay, it turned out to be, right? 3, they were met with a piece of chocolate and a bottle of water, right? Whatever. And then they had a positive experience. They're going to say to their friend who is looking to determine whether or not they should give of their life and serve in the youth ministry for 40 weeks next year. They're like, you know what? I think that'd probably be a refreshment to your soul. Okay, positive. You want people to talk. This is called like social credibility. Does your ministry area have social cred, or is your ministry area like a blight on the side of your church building? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, if you are listening to this and you're going or watching it and you're going, ooh, I don't know. I don't know what people would say, or I know what people are saying and I don't like it. Then, like, very simply, you can get your ministry to that level where you have the social credibility, but it's going to take you start asking the people who are volunteering in your ministry, what do you not like about being part of this ministry, and then going after those things.
Yes, there's a great saying that I picked up from a former senior pastor, And the saying is this, and I need to ask you this, Bill, because we work together, right? And you help produce the podcast and everything. And I don't want you to answer on screen. I call you. You can answer later. But the question is this: how am I driving you crazy? Not if I'm driving you crazy. How am I driving you crazy? Because if we work together, it's a good case of the inevitabilities that I'm going to do something that's minorly irritating. I don't like it when you text me at 10, 12 p.m. I just don't like that. Or, hey, when I get a hold of you, it takes you 72 hours to respond, which is not me, but so asking the people who you're serving with, how am I driving you crazy? And by the way, I know that I am. And I want the thing that comes, this is what I used to tell people. Before I would ask the question, I would say, I don't want you to think about this next question. What I want from you is whatever comes instantaneously top of mind, that's what I want you to say without hesitation. Can we do that? Knuckles. And they're like, yeah, okay. How am I driving you crazy? Not if am I driving you crazy, but how? And they're like, and I said, that one right there. That's the one that I want. Tell me what you just thought. Right?
That's a great exercise. I think there's some trust that you need to have involved in that. But yes.
Yeah. But also if they can see my genuine humility that I am looking to do better, because watch this, it is in the micro irritations that people get tired of serving with you.
Yes.
And if I know this is a micro irritation, I'm gonna be like, oh, dude, stop doing that. And so I ask people, how am I driving you crazy? We'll have this conversation later, Bill.
Yeah. Fun.
But it's a really good exercise. And again, I want what's top of mind. And so, I guess this comes down to having a good reputation. And part of having a good reputation is making sure in the summer months when you're plugging people in that they don't have a crappy experience. That's the facts. Well, Bill, talk to us a little bit. Oh, wait. Yeah, you were going to say something, buddy.
Well, I was just thinking you could really make your summer, you could ask the question this summer for your summer volunteers and how you're going to do summer. How do I make this summer special for the people who are going to interact with my ministry, for the volunteers that are? And so if you're not doing much right now, maybe it really is just, hey, every time you come in this summer, you get a mini muffin. And we worked with the coffee team, and the coffee team gave us our own pump pot this week, right? And so maybe it's something like that where it's a little something extra because you chose to give part of your summer to serve a couple weeks. Yeah. How can you make this summer special? That's right.
And you had said some stuff about when you were serving as a youth pastor. Can you elaborate on some of the things that you guys did different in the summer?
Yeah, what we did was we told our leaders as well, if you're a life group leader or a small group leader on Wednesday night, a main leader, you guys come on your own margin. So if you have margin, you want to join this thing, you want to be part of it because you want to stay connected with the students, then come. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to be recruiting our parents who don't normally serve as our chaperones for our summer activities. In addition to that, we greatly reduced the number of times we met on our Wednesday night. We would have more of I think we did, one year I did it twice a month. And what we would do is one night would be a teaching and training, and then the second night would just be an activity. But then what we did was we interspersed different activities, more relational ministry throughout the summer as well. And so the pace was just different. We just treated it different.
Okay, so let me just throw this out there. In a sense, it was like, hey, we're all meeting at the church. We're going to have a direct worship and a direct teaching time.
Yep.
And normally we would do that numbers of weeks in a row, but we're going to do that once. Then we're going to meet at this park and just kind of hang out. And then the next week, we're going to meet at this other park and have kind of a game night. And then we're going to have a teaching time. And then you would tell your volunteers, hey, guess what? You don't have perfect attendance. There is no award in the summer for perfect attendance. The ethic isn't perfect attendance. The ethic is look at your schedule and when can you fit us in?
Right. Absolutely.
For the purpose of, If you need all 12 weeks of the summer and we don't fit for you, that's totally fine. But we would love for you to make sure that you have some FaceTime with some kids and relational touch points. So how can you fit us in?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and
so
it worked out really well.
Yeah, and so then the pressure's off a little bit, yeah?
And we found that people actually showed up more than we expected. The majority of volunteers were like, I want to do the relational things with students. And so it was like, we took the pressure off. They really appreciated it, but they wanted to also be part of the students' lives.
Okay, now this is the craziest thing, and this is a kind of a different topic or a different podcast in a sense, and it's more about recruiting. But my number one recruiting line was the following. I want you to, after I'd give the pitch, I would say, I want you to feel the freedom to say no. And so reducing the pressure means that now it was within the capacity of their free will to come to a whole bunch of nights.
Yes.
It's reverse psychology a little bit, but it's also like, hey, there is no pressure here. And so when they felt no pressure, they're like, well, wow, since there is no pressure, I actually want to do this.
Right. Yeah, you increase their level of agency when you did that.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to close this one off here in a minute, but I got to say, for your summer to thrive, we need to think and be like the ant. The Bible says this in Proverbs 30:25, the ants are not a strong people, but they prepare their food in the summer. And so while it's still May, maybe you need to sit down with your team and strategize how you could have a different type summer experience. Well, at the end of the day, we really do want you good folks to make sure that you're being a little bit more thoughtful. You're being thoughtful about your volunteers' lives. You're being thoughtful about your life. You're being thoughtful about how to clean things up so that people who participate with you in a non-normal setting have a kind of a normal, good experience. And at the end of the day, we want your summer to thrive. Well, gang, this has been just another quick episode of the Lead Ministry Podcast, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Lead Ministry Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and visit leadvolunteers.com for more episodes and resources. Thanks for listening.